A lot of people think that because I make YouTube videos for a living, that I'm just this very social and outgoing person. But the truth is, I actually struggled with social anxiety for years, and I've always been naturally more introverted, and so this was a huge problem for me, especially in my younger years in life. So when I was in high school, I was bullied a lot, and I can remember times when I would be in class with people and I would not speak. It was like I was afraid to talk, and that made me an easy target for bullies because I was kind of this weird kid that kept to himself and really didn't talk and never really stuck up for myself. So what I want to share with you guys in this video are a couple of strategies that I've followed that helped me to overcome my own social anxiety, and hopefully if you're somebody who has some of these same problems yourself, where maybe you're afraid to speak your truth or social situations just make you very anxious, I'm hoping some of these strategies might help you as well. So my social anxiety really stemmed from not knowing what to say. And I found that I would be planning dialogue in my head before having a conversation with somebody, and I would always try to be like 2 or 3 steps ahead of the conversation. Before the conversation even started, I would be thinking in my head, what am I going to say to this person? What are they likely to say in response to that? And I would be planning my next 2 or 3 responses, which was honestly such an exhausting experience that 95% of the time, I would just avoid that conversation entirely. And the other thing is, the more fearful you are of something and the longer you think about it, the scarier it becomes. It's kind of like if you're going to jump into a pool of freezing cold water, you're better off just jumping into that water rather than dipping your toes in and then going into your knees and just gradually entering that freezing water. It's a much worse experience than if you just jump right in and just deal with that fearful situation. Now, I knew that this anxious version of myself wasn't really me, because when I was around friends and family and people that I trusted and was comfortable with, I was very open and expressive, and I would talk, and I wouldn't have these fears of basically speaking and being social. But as soon as I was put in an environment where I didn't know the people I was around, I became this anxious version of myself. And especially when I left high school, I decided that I didn't want to be this person anymore, and I didn't want to be held back by social anxiety for the rest of my life. So before I get into my strategies here for dealing with my own social anxiety, I want to make 2 quick statements here. First of all, I am not a medical professional, and if you have serious anxiety or depression, you should talk to a doctor about that. And second of all, we are in a unique time right now with social distancing and quarantining, and so just use common sense when I'm talking about these strategies. If you're going to do them yourself, do them safely and follow all of those rules out there. And I am going to include a couple of strategies here that you can do from the comfort of your own home that helped me tremendously with my own social anxiety. So that being said, let's get into the first strategy now that helped me with my social anxiety, and that was switching from a text conversation to a phone conversation. And to be honest with you guys, this is one of the easiest things that you can do. And phones in general have just made us very antisocial beings, because in the past it was common to call up your grandmother on the phone or call your friends to make plans. But now, for better or worse, we all tend to just handle this with text-based communication, which takes the human element out of conversation. So what I want to challenge you to do is, the next time a friend of yours texts you or a family member, simply send them a text that says, "Can I call you right now?" Or, "I have some thoughts about this. Can we talk over the phone?" And if you're like most people with social anxiety, that's going to get your heart thumping and you're going to get all nervous about it. But do it anyway. Send that text, and when they call you, pick up the phone or make plans to have that conversation later on in the day. Now, I'm going to do this list here in order of the easiest things to do, then the more difficult things to do. So if you're going to follow these do them in order because it starts off easy and then it gets more challenging. So the next thing you're going to do, assuming you're comfortable with getting on the phone with somebody, is you're going to call a stranger. But I'm not telling you to go out there and do a prank phone call or anything like that. What I'm going to recommend that you do is simply call up a store or a restaurant or something like that and ask them a legitimate question. Now, you don't want to be annoying here, guys. Like, don't call a restaurant during their peak hours and bug them with a bunch of questions. But I'm talking about, maybe you call a store and you ask them what their hours are, or if they sell a certain product. And simply what you're doing there is talking to a stranger, but it's kind of a situation where that person is already there to help you, making it a lot less scary than talking to a complete stranger who you really have no reason to be communicating with. So if you want to be safe with social distancing, which I recommend, do this over the phone and make a phone call. And the other thing you can do as well is if you're ordering takeout or ordering food, again, a lot of us default to using our phones and different apps for this, but I challenge you instead to pick up the phone and actually call them and place that order over the phone. So assuming you're comfortable with those first two things or you've already completed them, the next step is to actually go in person and ask somebody at a store for help with something. And again, guys, follow whatever rules are in place based on social distancing and things like that, wear your mask, etc. But this may sound stupid, but I would literally on my lunch break back when I worked a 9-to-5 job, I would oftentimes go to different stores and I would literally just walk around the store and I would force myself to go up to an associate working there and ask them a simple question. And if you don't have social anxiety, then you're probably wondering, why would that be a difficult thing to do? But for those who understand that feeling in your chest when you're about to put yourself out there and ask a question, and all of a sudden your thoughts start spinning, just simply going up and talking to a worker at a store is a huge step in the right direction. So I would just go up to somebody who works at a store and I would say, hey, what time is it? Or where is the men's section? And I would ask these different questions. And the good thing about this is it's a very low risk environment because, again, these people are there to help you, so you already have this built-in excuse to approach that person and talk to them. So that's what I'd recommend is do it safely and go to stores and try talking with some of the customer service people and just ask them random questions. Even if you don't buy something, you're just getting used to making conversation. So the next step beyond that, if you're comfortable with talking to people at a store who work there, is to talk to strangers. And you don't have to do anything crazy here, guys. You don't have to come up with some riveting conversation. You can literally just walk by somebody and say hi and keep walking. And this is going to be a lot more difficult than talking to a worker at a store, because when you go up to a stranger, you don't have this built-in excuse anymore of having this reason to talk to them. So that's what I would recommend, guys. Just walk through the store and maybe you are gonna say hi to 5 random strangers. Or maybe you're in the aisle at the grocery store and you see somebody looking at some packaging. You could say, hey, have you tried that? Do you recommend that? I'm curious. Even if you don't care about that answer, you're just basically putting yourself in a situation that is causing you fear, but every time you have a successful outcome, you're whittling away at that fear, making this problem become smaller and smaller. So the next step beyond that, guys, is to give yourself a compliment quota every single day. And honestly, pretty much everybody out there should be doing this anyway, just to spread positivity, because compliments are free, and if they're done in the right way, they make you feel good and they make the other person feel good. So it's kind of like a can't lose situation. So what I would do is every single day, I would give myself a compliment quota. And I would say, I don't care what I have to do, I'm gonna compliment 5 strangers today. And it doesn't have to be anything in particular. You could tell them that you like their jacket, or, oh, you have a really nice smile, and different things like that. And when you continue having these interactions with strangers and getting positive responses, you're going to start feeling good about what you're doing, and it's going to kind of help with the social anxiety, because you realize that going up and talking to people is not as scary as your mind makes it out to be. Because guys, at the end of the day, I'm sure we've heard this before, but fear stands for false evidence appearing real. So when you're in this fearful situation where you see somebody that you might want to talk to, or maybe you're in a situation where you're afraid to stick up for yourself, all of this fear that you're experiencing is false evidence of a situation that you're building in your brain. It's a situation you're making up in your mind, and you're running scenarios through your head. But in all honesty, if you just bypass that fear or don't listen to that fear and you push yourself beyond that initial feeling of fear, most of the time what you're going to find out is whatever you were fearful of doesn't actually happen, and all of these scenarios are in your head and not actually reality. So once you're comfortable with the compliment quota challenge, the next step, number 6, is to start a conversation with a stranger. And this is going to be a lot more difficult than simply giving somebody a compliment, because if you go up to somebody and you say, hey, nice glasses, or you have a great smile, they're gonna say, oh, thank you, and then you're gonna continue on with your day. So when you actually start a conversation with a stranger, you don't have a built-in excuse for going up and talking to them like you do with a worker at a store. So you kind of have to put yourself in this situation where you're entering a conversation, you don't know where it's going to go, but you initiate a conversation with a stranger. So there's a ton of easy conversation starters out there, guys. You could be like most people and talk about the weather or sports or things like that. And these are really easy conversation starters that help you with getting over the fear of approaching a stranger. And another thing here, guys, too, is you may notice it's more with the opposite sex, where maybe you have comfort talking to another male or female if you're male or female, but if you go up to a girl as a guy, all of a sudden you have all this anxiety about that situation. So maybe you start off by talking to people of the same sex, and down the road you talk to someone of the opposite sex as an added challenge. And if you're really hung up on going up and talking to a stranger, an easy segue here is to start with a compliment and then turn that into a conversation. If you give someone a genuine compliment and then segue it into a conversation, that's a really good way to start up a conversation with a stranger. So let's say, for example, you saw somebody and you really liked their jacket. You go up to them and you say, hey, you know, I like your jacket. And they may say, oh, thank you. And then you ask them where they got it from. Now, that being said, if you are starting conversations with strangers, pay attention to social cues, because there's always times when maybe we're out in public or we're at the gym and we're just in this mindset of like, I don't want to be bothered, I'm busy, like, don't talk to me right now. If you're looking to have successful interactions with people, pay attention to these social cues. Don't talk to people who are wearing headphones, and if they just have this overall vibe of leave me alone, leave them alone and talk to somebody else. And then number 7, this is kind of a catch-all, and this is something that I force myself to do anytime I feel my social anxiety coming up. And I simply call this 3, 2, 1, go. And what I mean by this is when you're in a fearful situation, the longer you allow yourself to sit in that fear, the more fearful you're going to become and the scarier this thing is going to be. Again, it's like wading into cold water versus just jumping right in. So what I challenge you to do is anytime you feel that social anxiety coming up, if you're at a bar or you're at a party and you see somebody and you say, oh, they're really attractive, I would love to go start a conversation with them. Just in your brain, just go 3, 2, 1, go, and then just go. Put yourself in their environment. I don't care if you have anything planned to say to them. What you're gonna find, which is interesting, is you're probably pretty good on your feet. That was the huge thing for me, because I used to always try to plan dialogue in my head. If I was gonna talk to a stranger, I felt like I had to have all of my steps planned out. But when I literally just push myself into that environment, even with nothing planned, I actually do pretty good on my feet, because humans are generally pretty social creatures and we're good at making conversation. So when you're feeling that fear and anxiety, just remember 3, 2, 1, go. Just go. Just go do it. And then see what happens. If it's a good interaction, that's great. If it's a bad interaction, you're probably never gonna see them ever again, so it really doesn't matter. So anyways, guys, those are the steps that I ultimately followed that helped me overcome my social anxiety. And I just wanna say that this isn't necessarily something where you get rid of it and it's gone forever. You're still going to be tested and challenged with these feelings of social anxiety, especially at times that we are in right now, where a lot of us have been away from other people people, we've been quarantining, and maybe we're just now venturing back into the world and noticing these feelings of social anxiety that we didn't have before. So it's kind of an ongoing thing here, but if you continue to push yourself out of your comfort zone, you can keep that social anxiety at bay and ultimately be in control of your own thoughts. One last tip I have for you guys here is there's a saying that I love, and that is that you can't be in your head and your body at the same time. So if you feel yourself getting really heady, where you're just in your own head and you're detached, literally physically move your body. Like go do jumping jacks or go do some air squats or do anything, like move your body and realize that you are a body and you're not just a mind. And that kind of gets you out of that situation of being caught up in your head and back into your body where you're able to physically go act on some impulse or situation. If you guys enjoyed this video, please go ahead and drop a like and share this with a friend or family member who might enjoy this message as well. If this is your first time seeing me, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications of future uploads. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.